Hey there, it's another beautiful day. Let's watch some stuff.
Not even NASA can rightfully explain what people just found in this photo taken by the Curiosity rover on the surface of Mars. At first glance, you'd probably miss it, but zoom in to just the right spot, and it's there. Standing out from its surroundings, we see a distinct, smooth, round, shiny metallic object that appears to be floating through the air, and we can even see its shadow beneath it. People are calling it the Tic Tac UAP on Mars, which does look exactly like a lot of the UFOs we've been hearing about and the military's been reporting on here on Earth. Navy pilots have literally used the exact words Tic Tac UAP to describe them, and well, if that ain't a Tic Tac, I don't know what is. This photo is from the Mars Curiosity rover taken on March 3rd, 2020, so we were probably a little preoccupied with something else when this first came out. And as always, yes, it's on NASA's official website. Here we even have an AI checker that tells us it's definitely not altered or AI generated. Strangely too, NASA allegedly removed the original color image from their website and now only have this black and white one up. But if you know where to zoom in, you'll find that Tic Tac exactly where it's supposed to be. Skeptics argue that it's a rock formation or some photography error, but man, it looks exactly like the UAPs that have been reported here on Earth. And if these spacecraft really are as advanced as we claim they are, then there really is nothing stopping them from visiting other planets too.
What on Earth? I mean, what on Mars? That is absolutely insane. Over 5 years ago, they took the picture, they had the picture, and now everyone's like, hey, what the actual F, man? Because there it is. I believe it's there. I mean, the shadow and everything, it doesn't look like it's some kind of rock formation. I mean, what kind of rock formation casts a single shadow just like that? And it's not doctored. At least that's what everybody's saying. And I am super excited to watch everybody tear this apart and see where it goes.
Facts that will mess with your perception of time.
2023 Tom Holland was the same age that Tobey Maguire was when he first became Spider-Man. Barbie went to the moon before women were allowed to open credit cards without a male co-signer. The release of Toy Story is now closer in time to the moon landing than today. If you're a millennial, you were born closer to the moon landing than today. 75% of the time you will ever spend with your kids is gone by the time that they're 12. 90% of that time is gone by the time they're going to college. Universe might actually be 26.7 billion years old, according to a recent study. This would make it nearly double the widely believed age of 13.7 billion years. From the time it was discovered to the time it lost its status as a planet. Pluto made it less than 1/3 of the way around the sun. We only recently found out that the sun was made of hydrogen and helium. Julius Caesar lived closer in time to us than he did the Great Pyramids. The last known battle involving samurai happened less than 150 years ago.
It is so strange when people take things, just stuff that happened, and put them on a timeline in relation to other things that happened in that same time period, and it's really intriguing. Like the University of Oxford was actually established like 300 years prior to the Aztec Empire, which is absolutely insane. Because when you think about Aztecs, you're like, oh, that's forever and a half ago, but it's not. Oxford in frickin' England was there when Aztec stuff was going on, and that's just crazy.
The thunderstorm generator, so-called, works on the same principle. It has a cylinder that's within a cylinder within a cylinder. You feed the plasmas in, they start this whirling. And one vortex whirls down one direction, the other is fed in, it whirls in the other direction, and then they're both fed back to where they meet. So you've got this cold and this hot front meeting, and it discharges plasmas. So this thunderstorm generator can now be hooked up to any kind of internal combustion engine, to a generator. Here's what happens. CO2 zeroes out. Carbon monoxide zeroes out. Nitrogen oxides go down to just a few parts per million, as does the other hydrocarbons. Oxygen tops out at between 20 and 21%, which is optimum percentage of oxygen for pure unpolluted air. So what is now coming out of the generator with the technology is pure unpolluted air.
No kidding.
No kidding. It's almost, not quite, but almost self-perpetuating.
And I don't know if he's talking about like an auxiliary generator, you know, like power goes out and you go turn on the generator, right? It runs off of gasoline or diesel fuel. Or if he's talking about like a new kind of engine for vehicles that runs with the internal combustion engine or instead of, and it puts out just clean air instead of exhaust. But that is interesting. Unfortunately, that kind of technology will probably never see the actual light of day, at least not for mass use, because there are too many people making too much money off of everything else that we currently use.
What do Babylon, Atlantis, Tartaria, and the year 2030 all have in common? A lot. The similarities between Babylon and Atlantis are striking. Both high-tech empires. Babylon had the Nephilim. Atlantis had the Greek gods. In the story of Atlantis, Poseidon was mating with a human woman named Cleito, and they were producing demigods that would run Atlantis. In the Bible, Babylon gets out of control and faces judgment via flooding. In Plato's story of Atlantis, it was also flooded or sunken. Tartaria is thought of as a high-tech civilization wiped out by mud floods. Now look at how Atlantis, aka Babylon, is set up as concentric circles. It isn't as obvious, but on these Tartaria maps, you can see similar themes. And look at how the first smart cities are being set up. You won't be able to find a full picture of a circle, but look at what's being shown here. Eerily similar to Atlantis or Babylon. Do you guys see what I'm saying? It's like slices out of the circle in all of the pictures of the first smart cities, which obviously are also going to be high tech.
That is very interesting. So there are a lot of similarities. They got wiped out, right, by a mud flood or a flood. But the high tech, and now we have this Agenda 2030, I think is what it's called, and basically it's all the smart city stuff, right, that we're looking forward to so excitedly, right? But it's happening, it's becoming a thing. So perhaps we're just repeating what happened before. And then, you know, boom comes the flood at one point or another, and then future versions of beings on Earth are like, hey, look at this crap we found. Yeah.
The birthmark theory?
The birthmark theory goes way deeper than most people think. Now listen carefully, because some of this is unsettling. You know how most people have a birthmark, right? Well, apparently the absence of one can mean it's your first reincarnation. Or maybe your last life ended naturally, no trauma, no scars. It could also mean you've spiritually evolved to the point of letting go of all past pain. But here's the weird part. If you have freckles or you are an albino, it's said those are signs of being burned in a past life. They say fire leaves its mark forever across lifetimes. And those weird discolored marks? That's supposedly the body remembering fire wounds that healed. There's even this doctor, I think his name was Dr. Stevenson, but don't quote me on that. He studied kids like 2 to 4 years old because their memories weren't clouded yet. And these kids, they didn't just remember past lives, they matched the details. Some even had physical marks that lined up with how they supposedly died. And the wildest part? In some cases, these kids were recognized by people they'd supposedly known in another life. Isn't that insane?
This is just a theory, not a fact.
Well, that's quite a theory, and it makes me think of redheads, because usually redheads have a lot of freckles. Their skin is like a beautiful brown and white mosaic. But were they burned in a past life and now they're redheads? Because that sucks. I personally don't have any birthmarks, so I guess, you know, I died of old age in my previous incarnation, if you believe in such a thing, or this is my first time. It's my first time having a go at it. My son has this rad birthmark that covers like his arm and his chest, but it's only like a couple shades darker than his actual skin, which is really interesting. And sad at the same time if you want to put that into perspective.
Okay, we gotta talk about this egg UFO they found in Antarctica. The one that was leaked by a supposed government whistleblower on a certain website that shall not be named. This blower claims to have been part of the recovery mission of a very interesting UAP that's allegedly of ancient origin. UFOs and ancient civilizations? I'm about to blow a little something myself. Your mind. This egg-shaped UAP, as it's being called, was found deep in a cave in the Queen Elizabeth Mountain Range in Antarctica, along with a 700-year-old humanoid being in a stasis pod who was still alive, woke up, and talked to us. Reminder, this is just speculation from an anonymous post and is for entertainment purposes only. Did you hear that, algorithm? Our whistleblower says he worked for the US Department of Defense in a long Q&A style post with some pretty juicy info, starting the thread off by telling us this video was taken in November of 2022, showing what appears to be a large, smooth, spherical object, not unlike a lot of the Tic Tac UAPs we've been seeing, dangling at the end of a long rope being airlifted by a helicopter.
All right, here's where my conspiracy brain is going with this. He said that was in 2022, right? Remember we had that crash that I don't talk about, that I talk about more than I don't talk about? Because, you know, I didn't like to talk about it, but supposedly that Cest fella from the egg that's from the Galactic Federation was on that helicopter, and now he's gone back to the Galactic Federation. He's not going to help us with whatever he was supposed to help us with. But the images from Mars, the Tic Tac shaped thing, that was in 2020. Maybe it was just going by Mars and then it landed in Antarctica and it wasn't really that long ago, and then boom, we find it and then we screw up everything. Or maybe a bunch of people were like, hey, the Galactic Federation is gonna help the Earth with stuff, and then nothing actually happened, so we had to create this thing of him being on that helicopter to postpone this thing that is supposed to happen that's not gonna happen now because it wasn't supposed to happen in the first place. Two different perspectives.
The late President John F. Kennedy. Some new information has come out about his case. Oh yeah, and it's interesting. So John F. Kennedy, or JFK, also known as JFK, told the CIA that he wanted UFO files released to the public just about 10 days before his assassination. Yeah, that's what's being reported today. According to several news articles, Kennedy wrote a memo to the CIA saying he wanted UFO files released to the public shortly before he was assassinated. Now there's a copy of this memo floating around. And here it is, right here. But some people are very reluctant to guarantee that this is authentic. Although it's stated that that memo was obtained by using the Freedom of Information Act. So basically, President Kennedy wanted the UFO information that the government had shortly before he was assassinated. That doesn't necessarily mean these two incidents are related. It could just be a coincidence. Then again, who knows? Hopefully we'll get more Kennedy files coming out in the next couple of weeks. Shabadoo Bushkis! Shabadoo!
Shabadoo, Joe. Shabadoo. There's also a lot of speculation that JFK, or JFK, as he is apparently known, was going to disband the FBI and the CIA, and that's another reason why they're like, no, let's get rid of this guy, which is terrible, of course. It would be nice to get those files sometime soon.
Wouldn't it be crazy if there are radio pulses suddenly coming from the Milky Way galaxy, unlike anything we've ever seen before? But I guess it'd be kind of crazy if NASA had lied about stuff like this before, right? Let's talk about Mars. Did you know that there are pyramid-like structures on Mars that almost identically match the Egyptian pyramid layout? Let's not forget about the face that was released in an old batch of photos that NASA had regarding Mars, Mars probe that took a bunch of photos. And I guess it'd be kind of crazy if NASA got caught red-handed photoshopping those photos to ironically make Mars look more red and alien than it actually is. Of course, after the controversy, NASA came out and said, oops, sorry, we lost all the photos. They've done that so many times. Remember this clear doorway that was found from a photo on Mars? And I guess it'd be really crazy if Buzz Aldrin came out and said that there was a monolith found on one of Mars's moons.
Yes, that would be crazy. But don't worry, y'all. We got Elon Musk, and that boy is gung-ho to go to Mars. It's gonna happen in our lifetime, and I, for one, cannot wait.
This Spirit Halloween conspiracy might just be the craziest conspiracy theory of the entire year. Ever notice how they just pop up randomly every single year in places where there was literally business just weeks before? What happened to the businesses that were there before, and how are they making this happen? Some people think that Spirit Halloween knows what businesses are going to go out of business, or is in fact intentionally making these business owners go out of business every single year. This has led some people to believe that they're actually haunted with the previous owner's spirit. What do you guys think? Spirit Halloween doing something shady?
So apparently all of the previous owners passed away before Spirit Halloween was able to go in. That doesn't make any sense. I don't think that the owners passed away and haunted the place, and that's why Spirit's there, because that's just insane. Could you imagine if every single owner previous to the Spirit Halloween moving in mysteriously passed away? No, I think they just got an inside track on what leases are coming up, and they're going to be, expiring for whatever reason, and then they're like, hey, we'll give you a few months. The dog's barking.
The Pigeon Spy Network. The truth they don't want you to know. Okay, think about this. Pigeons. They're everywhere. Parks, sidewalks, your grandma's backyard. But have you ever seen a baby pigeon? That's because they're not real birds. They're ancient spies from a forgotten bird civilization that secretly runs everything. Hear me out. Why do pigeons bob their heads like that? It's not for balance. It's them uploading data to their hidden leaders, giant bird overlords that live in the clouds, literal cloud computing. And those breadcrumbs we throw? Not food. It's a tax. A payment we make unknowingly to keep the birds from turning on us. Every time you feed a pigeon, you're funding their espionage. And what about power lines? Pigeons love them, right? That's because power lines are free Wi-Fi for pigeons. They sit up there syncing data while we walk around clueless. Oh, and why are they always flying at you just to barely miss? That's a surveillance tactic. They're getting a closer scan of your face, like a flying facial recognition system. So next time you see a pigeon, don't ignore it. It's watching you watch it, reporting back to its hidden bird empire. They're everywhere, and we're feeding their operation. Wake up!
Well, that just pulled a little bit out of every single spy pigeon theory that I can think of and strung them all into one, didn't it? Like we've never seen a baby pigeon. I mean, there have been baby pigeons. You want to talk about something weird. Have you seen the way a pigeon builds a nest? It's like 3 or 4 sticks. Like they forgot to download bird nest building, material into their hard drives before they sent them out. And they're just like, here's like 3 or 4 sticks of ribbon, egg.
Now, we don't even know if our artists are actually recording their own music. AI has gotten so perfect with what they're doing, it's that you can't tell the difference between the artist and the AI. At one point, rappers are going to stop making their own music. They're going to just start licensing AI to do it for them. Now you can sample a voice, and then the AI can make you say or do whatever the f it wants.
That's just crazy.
It's like you can give an AI a script, and all you need is like maybe 1 or 2 Travis Scott samples. It'll say it in Travis Scott's voice and everything. At one point, we're just going to be holograms.
Like that.
At one point, we're going to live on forever, but without living. Like, think about this. An AI can do this right here with a sample of my voice for all of eternity. I don't even have to be alive.
You'll forever be alive, but you won't be.
That's like a literal Black Mirror episode, and it fucking scares me.
He's not wrong. The stuff that AI can do now is absolutely insane, and it's only going to get progressively better or worse depending on how you want to look at it, especially with all this new quantum crap that's coming out. So yeah, we're in for a ride.
On today's episode of Random Conspiracies I Found on the Internet, apparently the Lizard Illuminati have been using ancient tunnels underneath Los Angeles as a super secret highway in order to escape traffic on the 405. And the reason we know about this is because a guy that worked as a barista in the underground super secret Starbucks that served all of the A-list celebrities and lizard people, he told us. So that's super reliable. I don't not believe that there are ancient Anunnaki tunnels underneath of Los Angeles that they're using for some nefarious or other reason, but I don't think that they have just random people working as baristas that'll, like, that guy had snitch written all over him. Like, why? It's totally possible that there are secret tunnels underneath major metropolitan areas, but, like, secret Illuminati lizard people tunnels so they can escape traffic on the 405 to get their coffee from a super secret Illuminati Starbucks probably not true, but it would make sense as to why Elon Musk was drilling all those holes in the middle of Los Angeles a few years ago, because they wouldn't let him into the super secret club and he had to sit in traffic. And he's like, "Goddamn lizard people, I want my coffee." And he's like, "I'm gonna find your tunnels." And I don't know if he ever did or not. And as long as we're talking about Elon Musk, there's another theory going around that he's a time traveler because somebody found a picture in an ancient tomb dated 1923 with a guy that looks like Elon Musk that was named Elon Husk. And, like, there's a whole story behind it. I'm pretty sure that was written by AI, because I would have found that with, like, for 3 or 4 years I've been researching everything to do with time travel and, like, evidence of time travel, and just all of a sudden it pops up like, oh, Elon Musk. I'm pretty sure that's fake is what I'm saying. Oh, and did you know that they found these rocks in the bottom of the ocean that are, like, electrically charged and separating the nitrogen and the oxygen from the water to make more oxygenated water? I don't know why that's important, but the rocks are electrically charged, and that's pretty cool. They're little battery rocks in the ocean. And now I guess we're gonna go pillage the ocean and to take all of those away. But I mean, it would make, like, I believe it, because it would make sense as to why those weird fish at the bottom of the ocean have that little forehead light, and then, like, it's an electrical light that they're like, oh, my light's going out, I gotta go sit on this rock and charge. I think that Oh, and another thing I found is that the 72 emojis correlate with the 72 seals of Solomon, or the 72 sigils of Solomon that, like, summon demons. So every time you put the smiley face, you're summoning demons. That's cool.
I didn't realize he was going to go into so many things, but I'm so glad I found this clip because it's great. It is absolutely great. Apparently the elites need to do a little more vetting before they hire their baristas for their super secret Starbucks so that they can avoid the traffic on the 405, which is friggin' hilarious. And the Elon Husk thing, come on. Now, I do think that there's a possibility that there's something going on with Elon Musk, but I don't think that there's a picture of him and with Elon Husk. Come on. But those rocks at the bottom of the ocean, I guess they've discovered, like, dark oxygen. Like, they make dark oxygen is what they're calling it, and that is absolutely fantastic. And yeah, we're probably going to go down there and start pillaging them for why, they'll figure it out. But the fish have to sit on it to charge. That's super funny. All right, we're going to carry on with the story that we started, the fun alien, lecture, and hopefully it continues to be just as awesome as the last one.
Are we alone? That question's done. The question is, what do we want? That's the question. Who do you want to be? It's not who you were. Who do you want to be? What do you want? In what direction do you want to create? What do you want to create? Do we create it together, or do we stand as individuals? That's really where humanity is. We're going to get all the help in the world, but they are not going to do the work for us. They're just not. They can't. We will never permanently, spiritually evolve third density into fourth and to fifth if they do the work for us. And that does not mean, and that literally means, not everybody's going to graduate on this planet. Okay? But that's okay. We're all soul. We're all spirit. People start over all the time. Okay? The idea here is, who wants to? Okay? You all have what it takes. And I'm not only addressing you, I'm also addressing whoever sees this, because these DVDs have a life of their own. Okay? The Andromedans are light blue skinned. They have three sexes, androgynous, male and female. They live in a spiritual community, where their lifespan is anywhere from an average of 1,900, 1,800 years to 2,300 years. Some of their race actually live much longer, but that's the average. Their children go to school to what would be the equivalent of our years, 150 to 180 years, where they learn all the sciences, they get all the degrees, and everything that is available as far as knowledge at the moment is taught to them. So when these kids grow up, they are in fact smarter than their parents. And that's called the law of consistency, which is what they practice. All right? They would never, ever consider dumbing down their children so that they could be managed or controlled, because that's sabotaging the race. Okay? So they have all these sciences, they have all this technology. They travel in arcs, or motherships, we would call them. The one that I'm the most familiar with, that I spent 3 months on, is an 800 miles cylindrical sphere that has hundreds of floors. It is much bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. And I have no idea how they do that. I still don't know. But even their scout craft are bigger on the inside than they are on the outside. They have these enormous parks on the inside where they grow all their food. They are fruitarians. Okay? They breathe oxygen like we do. They drink water like we do, but they live off of fruit. And they grow these type of fruits on their craft. They have 20, 30, 40-mile parks on virtually every floor, and along the sides of the parks is where they habitate. There's like apartments all around the circles. And there's wildlife, there's animals, there's birds, things that look like squirrels. There's all these different life forms. They also have a lot of different colors. Because they're fifth density, their color spectrum is 221 colors, where our bandwidth is only 72 here. So it's impossible for me to share with you some of the colors that I've seen, because there's just no way. There's no point of reference for me to share that with you here. They have animals that, well, the closest thing they have is something that looks like a squirrel, but it isn't a squirrel. Okay? But it's very clever, and all the animal life is telepathic. It completely interacts with all of the people there. The children are all telepathic. They do not speak. Very few do. Mornay has learned to speak, and that's because of my relationship with him over the last 40 years. He made an effort. Okay, I got way ahead of myself, didn't I? Yeah, it's been a while. I'm a little nervous. My relationship with the Andromedans have been primarily with two beings. A very old gentleman, a sage. His skin has gone pale because of his age. His name was Phaseus. They don't really use names, they use symbols. But for the benefit of me, because of our culture and how we like to label things on the planet, his tone, his frequency, his symbol would equate to the word Phaseus. So he was Phaseus. Phaseus was about 4 foot 11, 4 foot 9 tall. Very old. In our years, he was 4,300 years old. So he was like a Yoda, but very stiff, very stiff. Mornay, on the other hand, is 2,300 years old. He was very young, very strong. He's 7 foot tall, 400 pounds, and he's just perfect. He's loosened up. He's learned to talk. He has a sense of humor. Many of them do, but because they're telepathic, you don't actually hear the jokes. Okay. And I was very self-conscious in the beginning, because sometimes they would look and then they would smile and kind of giggle, and they're talking about you, but you just don't know what it is, You can't even eavesdrop. So it's been an extremely interesting experience. I love them. I absolutely love them. They are my brothers. They are my family. And the Andromedan people love us because genetically they're connected to us. And they have been extremely worried about us for a long time. There was at one point a council meeting in Andromeda. It's only held there. They don't run it. It's only held there because it's a central point for many star systems in that part of our galaxy to talk about us. And I think it's noteworthy to tell you about this. I was told about this in the late 80s. But they don't have the same kind of time that we do. So I don't know the exact time that this meeting actually occurred. But they only shared it with me in the 80s when I was living in Malibu. There was a meeting to decide what to do here.
It's pretty interesting, right? I hope you're enjoying it. I'm totally intrigued. I can't wait for the next part. When he talked about the spaceship being bigger on the inside than it was on the outside, it made me think of the TARDIS from Doctor Who, you know, the time and relative dimension in space, so it's bigger on the inside. Of course it makes me perk up a little bit because Doctor Who is my jam, but we're gonna carry on. We'll catch the next part on Wednesday. As for me, I'm calling it for today. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Please come on back in a couple of days. We're gonna watch some new stuff. I'll say different things and it's gonna be fantastic. Until then, have a wonderful day.